There we go. Welcome to Content Writing and Marketing. My name is Susan Day. I'm just going to go through this short course today and have some questions at the end. So, content marketing is a strategic marketing approach focused on creating and distributing valuable, relevant and consistent content to attract and retain a clearly defined audience and ultimately to drive profitable custom action. So that's from the Content Market Institute. I wanted to look particularly at the three words there: valuable, relevant and consistent. So a lot of people begin a blog, they get very excited about it, they write about interesting stuff, then it becomes more difficult, they start writing about their cats and eventually they drop off. Creating valuable, relevant and consistent content is quite difficult. It takes quite a lot of perseverance. But it's certainly well worth it in the long run, as I want to show you about that a little bit later. So the information people want to read has got to be valuable. It's got to be entertaining, inspire, inform, and really valuable content is shared, liked, and will generate its own life, if you like. If the content's relevant, it provides the information it promises, particularly in the title. So the content which people want to read, and it's content people want to read about now. It also, relevant content is not too salesy or has a hidden motive. So it's really important that the content that we develop answers a question without trying to lead people directly into the sales funnel. Although obviously a call to action is incredibly important at the end of the content. People want to look. What we really want to do is establish ourselves as top influencers, as experts, and the sort of person that people will want to go back to over and over again. Content has to be consistent, so you've got to stay on message, supply it regularly all the time, and again be consistently valuable and relevant. So I thought there were three really valuable points to bring up regarding the type of content that we use. Now, my aim today is to inspire to create compelling, engaging content so that you can establish yourself in this field. Just writing for the sake about the subject matter you're passionate about may not be enough. What we want to look at today quickly is the structure of a really good blog post and how to create one from just one idea. So then we're going to be looking at those two things today. So this is yesterday's Google shot from one of my websites, susanday.net. This website exists purely to see, if you like, as an example, to see how content works. Nothing else is done on this website. So you can see down here, right on the left here, what is that? You can see here that nothing much happened. This was 12 months ago, and it was just sort of tooling along on its own. About July last year, it went through a massive spike, and as you can see, it's continued to grow, and here we are in January 2017, and it's peaking again. What it's important to remember is probably right up until April 2016, so here, I was posting 4 to 6 times a day. That's quite a lot of content. But you'll see nothing much has happened. There's a slump here. This dip here was when my Google Analytics dropped off and sort of disappeared. But we'll just assume that there might be a nice line to join those two together. I don't know how that happened, and it certainly hasn't happened since. As you can see, well, probably from April, I dropped off the posts down to about 1 a day, so maybe 5 a week. And then down here somewhere, I dropped the posting again to maybe 1 or 2 times a week. So up here, we were posting, so in January 16 and before, 4 to 6 times a day. Roughly around here, it was 5 or 6 maybe times a week. And now, down this end of this, I'm lucky if I post. But you can see from the lovely blue squiggly line that the visitors are still coming. And that's because of the massive amount of content that's regenerating and regenerating. So we might have some questions about that later. So today, just like as I mentioned, we're going to have a look at the structure of great blog posts and looking at expanding one idea into a 350-word post. Now, are there any questions so far? Some of you are unmuted, so you just need to go and You've got a question? No? I'll just keep talking. I can hope you can hear me. So here we go, how to structure a great blog post. Now, before we actually get into the nitty-gritty, I just wanted to talk about the two audiences you have. And you'll see this debated over and over again in forums like Bill's and other places. So when you're writing content, it's important to remember that you've got two audiences and both are equally as important, and you need to meet both needs. So obviously one is the reader, this person who's going to visit your website, read your content. If they like it and if you've fulfilled the promise, then they're going to keep coming back. If you're really lucky, they might share it or they might leave a comment. So the other is Google, or one of the big search engines, and of course Google's the biggest and the greatest, so we just got to look after them. Now they have certain criteria that they will look at for different blog posts. So you need to structure your blog post so it appeals to both audiences. And it's important to keep that in mind. So what I've done is I've gone through the various aspects of writing a blog post and looked at both those audiences. So your length of your blog post needs to be roughly between 250 and 350 words. Now, Google tends to ignore content that's less than that and or over that. But again, that's just a rough, it's actually the characters that Google counts in any post. And that may vary in time as we go, but for the moment, there's a good number to sort of keep in mind. And alternatively, most people go online for a quick fix. So they don't want to read a long, drawn-out blog post. If you're answering a particular question, you need to do that quite quickly. From my experiences and from what I've noticed, if your blog posts take longer to read than it takes to drink a cup of coffee, some people may swipe away. It might just be too much of a commitment. And we see this now you see that the time commitment it takes that people are willing to invest is quite low. So you need to grab them and grab them quite quickly. So that's keeping your blog posts to that length. Great idea. Your titles are extremely important. I usually frame most of my titles around questions or statements. And they're the sorts of things that people use when they're searching for content online. You've got to obviously, you're looking at your keyword search, but people don't search, they don't search old dogs seeing your key. They don't use keywords in their search. They'll put a question into the search box and they'll say something like, why is my dog going grey? Yeah, so they're the sorts of things you need to look at. You may have a burning passion about something. To make sure it gets found, try to look at turning that into a question or a statement that people use online. If you're not sure, go and Google it yourself. See what's available and what other people are saying. So that's one. So number 3 is the importance of using subheadings. Now the subheadings give you a better opportunity to use keywords, and this is obviously great for your search engine optimization. I see a lot of these where people they'll use pronouns, for example, or they'll just use generic terms. But you should use your subheadings very carefully and and if the cleverer you are about them, the better they'll get picked up and used. Now that's for Google. For your other audience, most people now are using small screen devices to go online, so phones and tablets. The new iPhone seems to be quite small. I have a Samsung Galaxy, which is even quite larger. But either way, it's quite difficult to follow long passages. The screens themselves are quite sensitive, so it's not hard for someone reading your blog post to actually get lost on the phone. So I like to use my subheadings as place markers, because people go, I've read this, so they'll recognise the place marker and pick up where they left off again. If it's just one paragraph after another, they'll more than likely get lost and or get bored and swipe away. The same sort of goes for images. However, the search engines can't read an image and they can't read a video. They only look at characters, language that we use in our letters. However, you can, with WordPress, there are 4 areas that you can tag and name your image. And this is where you get to use your keywords, or you can put in the questions. And according to research, this will increase the findability of your post by about 30%. So that's quite an impressive number. Obviously, the images have to relate to the text, or the people will be wondering why you've got an image of a child eating an ice cream and you're talking about dogs going grey. But however, the most important thing about your images is how you set them up in the back end for that search engine optimization. And also with your subheadings and your images, again, they're like place markers. So if on a small screen, they're really, really important. So I hope that makes sense. Now, let's have a look at the next part. So your links, external and internal links are really, really important to build your credibility. The internet's still a big place for sharing. So ensure that the sites you're linking to will be around in a few months or even a few years. And also make sure your links can be opened in a new window, even the ones that link internally back to another post in your website or on your website. And of course, sharing. Most of the websites now allow for social media buttons. I tend to think it's really disastrous if you've got like a whole range of them on the bottom of your blog posts. Most people are on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. Again, you need to share where your audience is, not where your family and friends are. So that will take a bit of research and depend on who you're talking to, who you want to share your blog posts with. And it's also a really good idea to use a reposting plugin on your WordPress account so that your old posts tend to regenerate a lot of interest over time. And there's different ones that do it. And it's about finding one that's compatible with the theme you're using as well. So, how to create hundreds and hundreds of blog posts, which we're going to do in 10 minutes. So what I've done is I've created a topic and I've talked about how I would map out a single blog post. And then we're going to go, in the next slide, we're going to go into a little bit more detail. So the topic is, or the question is your dog going grey from old age or stress? Okay. So the target is obviously dog owners who have perhaps older dogs or whose dogs appear to have stress-related issues. Your first paragraph you need to target, you need to use your keywords and explain the title. And you can roughly do that at about 50 to 75 words. In your second paragraph, you need to define one aspect of the title. So you're looking at probably about 125 words. In your third paragraph, you need to define another aspect of the title. Again, that should work out to be another 125 words. And in your conclusion, or you're summing up, it's usually about 50 words. Any captions you put on any images are also counted towards your word count as well. So that will give you, if you roughly follow that outline, that will give you 350 words. Again, you know, it doesn't have to be set in concrete, but you need to sort of look between that 250 word and the 350 word goal. So taking the subject again, the topic is your dog going grey from old age or stress. I've actually written this blog post. So our keywords are dogs, dog owners, puppy owners, probably also senior dogs, older dogs, stressing dogs. This blog post would appeal to people with what we call senior dogs, which is only 7 years, but it may also interest people who've just got a puppy and are wondering how long have they got to, how long before their dog passes, if you like, or how long is it going to live for. So in our first paragraph, we're going to expand on the topic. So you're going to I always add in a few more questions because I think they're also the sorts of things that people might Google. So does your dog have grey hair around its muzzle or its eyes? You know, is your dog still quite young or middle-aged? And do they look like they're going grey? So expanding that little bit, I'd probably go a bit further. And again, reordering the words, changing the topic around a little bit, all still using those sorts of keywords. The second paragraph, does your dog stress from affect? Does it affect all dog breeds? So you're looking at who, when, and where. So larger dogs get older quicker. They tend to go grey around the muzzle and the eyes quicker. And this usually happens around the 4 to 5 year mark. So that's sort of like padding up that whole idea. So the third paragraph, what does the research say? So that's who is saying it, where can it be found, and when did they say it? So that's, and the article I wrote, that was all included in that article. And the idea was then that, of course, there are dogs that suffer a great deal of stress, and it actually affects their age, just like it does people. So the fourth paragraph, you're offering a bit of a solution. So what should concerned dog owners do? So if they've got a middle-aged to youngish dog, it's going grey, when should they act? Probably immediately. And what else can they do? So things like diet, exercise and training were the solutions offered to support the dog, de-stress it, and try to get, again, using all those sorts of really important keywords. And I've just reiterated down the bottom there, including external links to research and internal links to relevant materials on your site. So when I was talking about the sorts of training, the basic training, I put a couple of links in back to other articles I'd written about that sort of stuff that people can do. So now let's share. We've got a few minutes to share and some questions. I might come back to this slide. If anyone's interested in a free copy of an ebook I've created, which goes into what we've covered today in a lot more detail, that's called The 7 Tips to Creating Magnetic, Compelling Blog Posts. And you just need to send me an email to susandayWriter@gmail.com. And I popped in a quote down the bottom there, which I think is really relevant. Content is the present and future of marketing. Again, that was from the Content Institute. Now, let me check. Are there any questions at all? Or has anyone got anything to share or to add? Oh, I might leave that back up there. You've all gone quiet on me. I'll unmute you all. Oh, is that a bad noise? We're getting a bad noise from Bill's. Has anyone got any questions?
Sorry?
I'll just check the... There we go. Now someone's asked, just seeing up there in the chat box there, the amount of articles that you might need. It's roughly 400 articles spread over 4 to 8 months. If you wanted to, obviously the more articles you post, the more often, the quicker Google will recognise your website and start sending people to it. I worked out that if you wanted it to happen quicker, you're looking at 17 articles a week. But of course, you've got to be realistic. Bill's got some really good topics that and some ideas on how to get those sorts of, like, where do you get these? Where do you get 400 things to write about? I'll just check. I was going to say something off of them. There you go. Somebody's asked, I have a blog on Tumblr and don't know anything about reposting plugins. It's actually a WordPress. I'm not sure about Tumblr. I might have to look that up for you. It's a great little system that once you get it set up and you link it to your social media accounts, it will just, you pick up a post at random from your files and repost it on for you. I tend to work on ones that are over a month old, and I don't add them to a website until I've got at least over 100 posts, and I probably do one an hour. You can have them a bit more often, but it's one of those things. You may have to look into Tumblr to see if they do that. So I'm sorry, I don't quite know if that's an option. Maybe somebody else might know as well. I'm not sure. we tend to go to WordPress as the be-all and the end-all, because they aren't. So, here we go. Now, are there any more questions at all? Because I think content's really important. It is, I've proven it with a site that I brought up before, and I've got other sites that are doing really well. I was asked by Australia Post to help them promote a safety campaign involving dogs. They found me out of the blue. I didn't apply for it. And I did a series of posts for them and a video. And it was basically how dog owners should control their dogs around the poor old posties. They get quite a thrashing from them. And also just recently I was invited to join Australia's 50 top online influencers. So that was an honour to just be asked. I don't know if I'll win, but if I win, you're bound to hear about it. So, I mean, this has all happened from me just posting content and sharing it on social media. I'm quite lazy. I don't really like to get too involved in social media that much, or chasing up figures. I like to look at the stuff on Google Analytics. But for me, I just enjoy writing, and I enjoy seeing the results that can come from that sort of questions and content that you can answer. And also when people comment and they thank you, and I think that's really, it's really quite rewarding to see that. But again, the content is the basis. That it offers something that you can use when you want to upscale your marketing too. Very good, well done. Right. So are there any more questions? I've done well. I've raced through that. All right. Well, what I might do is I might end the meeting. We are recording, so if you need to pick up anything later on, if you want a copy of the ebook, I'll just go back a slide. There's the email address. You're welcome to send it to that. People only get this ebook when they've signed up to one of my content writing courses, but I'm happy to share it with everybody today. So just drop me a line and let me know. Oh, well, thank you everybody for attending. I hope you have a great afternoon, evening and or morning, depending on where in the world you are. And yeah, if you have any more questions, come visit me on Bill Ballou's forum or drop me a line. Thanks guys, take care.